All right. All right. Well, hi, Carrie.
Hi there, how are you today?
I am doing very well. Thank you so much for joining me in this conversation about, the importance of having a little control in our lives.
Mhm.
And it's part of an ongoing conversation that we've had about this idea of an engagement battery, what engages people, and the importance uh, of having a little bit of control in our lives to be able to make the decision to commit, right, to our various engagements, the things that we are passionate about. So I'd like to open up the conversation with just a simple question, which is, in your experience, why is it critical to retain a sense of control in our life?
And that's a really good question, Ron. And before we do that, because one of my areas of expertise is communication, I want
Mm,
to make sure that we're on the same page in terms of how we are defining control. So,
love
what
it.
what comes to mind for you when you say it's important to retain a sense of control in our lives? How are you defining control?
I think in the context of engagement, it's being able to make the decision to engage, right? The decision
Okay.
to um, to take an action, right? To
Okay.
feel like you have some sense of control over what you commit to and your ability to exert effort towards that goal.
Okay, all right. That sounds very good, and I can certainly resonate with how you're defining that. So for me, when I think in terms of why it's critical to retain that, first of all, it's people having the awareness that they have that ability. Okay, because when I think of control, I think of power. Okay, and so like
Mm,
owning your own power. So if you're
mm,
operating from a place where you feel powerless, then you are almost in a space of victimization or victimhood, if you will. So I think of it from that perspective, and it's you want to first of all have the awareness, and I think when you look at the battery, once you've had the opportunity to take the assessment, and you can see that, you can begin to also operate it from a standpoint of a coach, if you will, from a place of helping people to acknowledge and recognize the fact that they do have control. Okay, that they do have the power to make decisions. And again, this can become, this is cultural, it could be social, the socialization process. A lot of that will have people in that space of, I'm a victim of circumstances. I have to, for example, I have to work, I have to pay my bills, I have to, take care of my family. So whatever I'm told to do, I have to do, whether I like it or not. In fact, I don't even have the opportunity to express how I feel to my manager or to my leader. So I understanding and recognizing that you do have that, I think it is much more empowering. And I would venture to say that the battery, okay, once people acknowledge that, the battery will increase. That's how I see that.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. In your role as an executive coach, uh, I'm
Mhm.
curious. I mean, what when you come across people who lack a sense of control or a sense of sort of personal power, I
Mhm.
mean, what does that look like? How does that manifest itself?
It's very interesting. Oftentimes in the communication, it's just like, I have to do this and I have to do that. And my boss asked me to work, until 10 tonight, and I have a conflict, but I have no other choice. So I have to do that. Or my boss calls me anytime, day or night, and say, this needs to get done. And I jump and do it. I quickly jump to doing that, and I have no other choice. I cannot sit down with my boss and have this conversation about, okay, what is the priority here? What's important? If I do this, this is how it's going to impact that. So from that perspective, people feeling that space of out of control, like someone else is pulling my strings, if you will, telling me what to do and when to do it. So I see that often, and then so of course, then how what that results in oftentimes is that the level of stress. and then just the physiological impact, implications of that in terms of someone, I have stomach issues or I can't sleep at night. And so all of these things, I believe that would be reflected in the battery.
Absolutely. When you think about the times that we're in now, right, where there's a lot of disruption and change, we have COVID related issues where people were really forced to move out of their normal work environment, most people,
Right, right.
and move home. And then when you consider maybe even some of the social justice issues that we're wrestling with, I would imagine that there are lots of it has a large impact in leaders' ability, right, to actually feel a sense of control. And I wonder if you could just describe a little bit what you think people's experiences are now in this time of disruption and how it affects their sense of control.
Well, it's from my experience and just the conversations that I've been having with clients and potential clients. It's like it's like you don't feel, they're not feeling grounded, if you will. And so I would venture to say if many of the people that I'm interacting with, if they were to take the assessment now, the engagement battery would probably be very, very low. Okay, and particularly when you look at things like looking at resiliency, okay, and the control issue and all of the various issues, I believe that it would show up very, very low. So from that standpoint, how then do we, what one of my questions to myself and how I deal with that is, how do I get people to recognize and realize that by taking a step back, okay, and as opposed to being caught up in the whirlwind of all of these things that are happening, and you're bombarded with so much media and social media and people in conversations with others, that it doesn't allow you to think. So I believe the self-leadership comes into place here. And by self-leadership, starting with the awareness of myself and what am I dealing with and what am I feeling, as opposed to how do I solve all of these issues. And as a leader, I believe you have to start with self. In terms of the awareness there, and then being able to find what helps you to get grounded, okay, and restore, for lack of, pardon the pun, but to actually restore. How do I restore myself with all of these things going? It's almost like let me hit the pause button, because I can do that for myself. I can't do that for the world. I can do it for myself, even if it's just for a very short period of time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And we've talked a little bit about the importance of creating a space. From a self-leadership perspective, it's a space to be able to push pause, to be able to reflect on where you're at, to be able to really take take note of really the challenges that you have in front of you. I'll just share one example, and maybe you can react to it from your own experience. But when we first started, when the COVID shutdown started happening and people started working from home, I spent a lot of time talking with my friends who are leaders in different organizations globally. And it was always interesting. The conversations were always interesting because it was pretty common that the people, and these are all A players, these are all people who are very strong leaders.
Right.
But it was interesting to hear a number of the list of things that seemed to be out of their control, right? Mm-hmm. They would list a number of things. Here's what's defining the disruption, right? Mm-hmm. And invariably, there would be a number of things on that list that actually they had control over, had some control over. But it's sort of the disruption, et cetera, these sorts of things forced people or caused them really to abdicate some of that responsibility as a leader. And so I'm just curious, in your own experience, have you seen that situation where people, who, when faced with disruption or ambiguity, that they responded in a way that sort of abdicated the control that they had?
Yes, and I would venture to say that that actually stems from when we feel threatened, okay, because we move into that fight or flight mode, or the emotional part of the brain, if you will. So when we're there, we cannot be logical or rational according to research. So we get into that irrational state, and we're overwhelmed because we're in fight or flight. So how I deal with that, particularly when I'm interacting with people, even in friends and colleagues, and because I feel like I'm working all the time, because when I'm coaching someone, obviously I'm doing that, or if I'm teaching a group of people, I'm facilitating a program, I'm helping them to understand that is, first of all, is my motto is to meet people right where they are. Okay, so you're feeling out of control. Let's make a list of the things that you feel out of control of. So if it's a colleague, if it's a friend or a family member, I might say, why don't you share with me the things that you feel? And I might, as I'm sitting there, I'm probably writing down notes. Okay, so basically, and then I go over each one with them, because again, it's bringing them out of that fight or flight mode, or what we call emotional hijacking and emotional intelligence. How do we get them, because they've been hijacked, and to try to reason with someone. Again, according to research, trying to reason with someone when they've been emotionally hijacked is impossible. So you don't want to try to reason, because then they get further and further into that space of being illogical. And you know, from examples, if you have children, and you, as I know you do, when they were younger, or even as teens, when they're upset and you're saying, stop crying and calm down, what does that do? They go more and more into that, because they cannot hear you. When you're trying to be reasonable and being reasonable with them and logical. So the goal to me then is to bring people back to that place where, okay, so now that I've pulled you out of this emotional space that you're in, and now let's look at each one of these things from the intellectual standpoint, from that part of the brain, or the higher mind that we oftentimes call it. Let's look at it from that place now. And now let's talk about what you do have control over. And so people then feel a sense of empowerment.
That makes so much sense. And I don't know what you mean about kids and being uncontrollable. You know,
I know, right?
Didn't really have that experience, but sure. You know, like I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. Three, right? Three compared to my one. So.
Oh, well, okay. You know, we all have our days, you know?
Yeah.
Well, what I love about the example that you just gave is that it's really about creating space again, creating a space to reconnect, right? To reconnect to that logical argument, to reconnect to what's really happening. And I think as individuals, it's so critical to be able to create that space for ourselves to do that when we know that we're, not necessarily connected to what's going on, and we need to reconnect ourselves. We need to create space for that. But as leaders, of course, we would need to do that as well. We need to create space for others to be able to reconnect, with with the mission, with the work that they're doing, with the challenges that they're facing. And people who are overwhelmed, it's sort of a leader's responsibility to kind of create that space for them, right?
I think from the standpoint of, as a leader, I believe it's absolutely essential. It's essential because otherwise you're leading from a place then now from emotions, and you're going to go further, you're going to spiral further and further into that, and you begin to lack the awareness of your folks. You can't even tune into them because you're in this what I'd like to call almost like a whirlpool, okay, of going round and around, which is exhausting. And then you're trying to climb out of it, and that's also exhausting. And you're trying to make decisions from that place, which to me really spells chaos, in your personal life as well. So the ability to as a leader, to me, your ability to recognize and to find that space to get grounded, and it could be almost anything. And I from my personal experience, I can tell you there are times when I have, there are days where I have so much going on, even now, so many different things happening, that I will look up and look at the time and say, okay, when is my next Zoom meeting or training or coaching or whatever, and I'll say, okay, looks like I have about an hour. I'm going to do a 45-minute walk. Okay, because I know that I need to, in order for me to be effective. Now I can say, well, I have too much to do before this call. I'm going to be more effective by taking the walk than I would by doing additional work. You know, so understanding that, and so the awareness of oneself, okay, as a leader, is imperative. What happens to you physiologically when you find yourself, when you are out of control? And interesting enough, when I've asked that question, particularly like in a group of leaders and I'm facilitating a program, and I'll say, when you find yourself, I like to call it on that slippery slope. So like if you ski, I ski, I have skied, I don't ski any longer. But if you're on a ski slope and you are at the top of a new mountain, and I've had people do this to me and say, okay, Carrie, you know, look, this is a new one, let's try this. And you go, okay, it look, you know, from down where I'm standing, it looks reasonable, I can do this. And I get up on the mountain and you start down, and then you realize that this is a lot steeper than I thought. You can't halfway down the mountain go, you know what, I'm gonna turn around and go back up to the top and go, because you can't stop until you get to the bottom. So the goal is, and I like to use this analogy when I'm facilitating. The goal is to recognize when you're at the top of the mountain, okay, or when you're at the top of this slippery slope. Because once you start down, you have to get to the bottom, and we know what happens when you get to the bottom is something that's a little too steep for you. Right. So I think of it from that perspective. So as a leader, and so when I ask questions like, what does that feel like in your body when you're at that place? And it's interesting how many people would have a difficult time responding. So I engage in exercises to help people begin to acknowledge that, because you want to, as soon as you're at the top of the mountain, you want to realize I need to do something right now. Okay. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And some people, oh, Carrie, you don't understand. I have a new baby at home. I have this going on. And I'll say, go in the kitchen and get a glass of water, you know, because just interrupting that will support you in regrouping and staying in that space where you can be rational and logical.